points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mindell. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. With Dave Manouk, I'm your host, Drew Mindell, here to talk about an opportunity knocking for the Winnipeg Jets. And as has been the case so many times this year, the Jets failing to answer the bell, answer the door, answer the opportunity that presented itself to them as they drop a 5-2 decision on Long Island to the New York Islanders. Good evening, Mr. Manouk. Nice to see you after your brief hiatus yesterday. As you can tell, Ezzy away tonight. When do I get any time off is the question on everybody's mind, undoubtedly.
Maybe. I'm not so certain, Drew. Maybe people just like you as the host. Maybe they don't want to give up on you. They're willing to see Ezzy and I. Well, we need you. You do a good job hosting. It's a thankless job. I do it every once in a while when you decide to step away from it. So not the most fun to try and wrangle Ezzy and I into following orders, but hey,
I wouldn't. There's nothing I enjoy more than trying to herd the cattle that are Dave and Ezzy on a daily and sometimes on a weekly basis, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, look, it's an interesting night. I'm going to talk to the schedule makers, though. Not a friendly one for me. Trying to be at that Moose game, trying to be at that, paying attention to the Jets game. Now it worked out because of the half an hour difference in times. It actually worked out perfectly that the Jets game would be in intermission when the Moose game was playing, and that the Moose would be in intermission when the Jets were playing. The problem, of course, was I do the show from home, so I had to get home and after the second intermission of the Moose game. And as far as I can tell, it's still 3-3 with 10 minutes to go in the third period. So Moose had a lead. They gave up 2 power play goals. We'll get into that later. We're here to talk about the Winnipeg Jets.
We are here to talk about the Winnipeg Jets. And as I mentioned, an opportunity for the Jets on the second half of a back-to-back, the same second half of a back-to-back that the New York Islanders played. They played at home last night to Columbus. With a victory tonight, the Jets would have moved as close to 3 points outside of a playoff spot. I mean, 3 points is definitely striking distance. Yes, games in hand, no question about that. The other teams, the Jets have played more games than the other teams. But, if the more desperate team should step up and have a better performance, because the Jets are certainly more desperate than the Islanders. The Islanders, given the strength of the Eastern Conference, I think Ezzy and I talked about it yesterday. There's something like 18 points out of a playoff spot or something ridiculous where they have no chance of making the playoffs. And I mean, as slim as the Jets' chances may be, if the more desperate team should stand up and should show up, that's not what happened tonight. The Jets certainly did not play with any desperation in their game, and full value to the New York Islanders. They were the better of the two teams from puck drop, and the Winnipeg Jets were playing catch up the entirety of the game, and they never were able to get to the level that the Islanders played at.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've talked about this for a while now. This Jets team doesn't have the luxury of points in the standings bank, unlike teams like Nashville and Minnesota. Teams like Nashville and Minnesota could afford to go into the slides they did, which appear to be over, because they had banked so many points. And the Jets have been in that position in previous seasons. That's not a position they're in this year because of the slide they've had for the last few months, essentially, where they've been a middling team. And as a result, you don't have the luxury of saying, oh, well, we'll be back at it against, St. Louis on Sunday. Not exactly an easy task for any team. So you're right, Drew. I mean, look, you can't do anything about the games in hand. You already have put yourself into this situation. All you can do is control what's in front of you, which is the ability to get wins. If you can win, if you win out, not win out in every game, but if you can win out the majority of games and you can get sort of back into it, look, it's all the numbers suggest that your chances are in the 10 to 12% range. So, unlike they said in Dumb and Dumber, I know they're saying there's a chance. It's not a great chance because if you look at what's happening around the NHL, teams are the Kings went to overtime yesterday. Like the Ducks, I think, did as well. Like so many of these games, I think, unfortunately, are for the Jets at least, are going into extra time, which is the reason why people say it's going to be such a difficult, hill to climb for Winnipeg. But an effort like this, 2 goals, and we'll get into it obviously, but 2 goals in 40 seconds to start the period, essentially. I mean, it's just a killer. And it's one thing to give up the first one, but then to allow another one so shortly thereafter. I mean, it really is a bit inexcusable because you don't have that luxury of a buffer. You need the points. And I mean, the Jets are being it's just, I think the word you used was desperation, and the Jets didn't play with that requisite desperation. And even, I mean, I don't want to jump ahead because it's like, I'm going to break down the game throughout the course of this. So this is just the preamble, but I just think like you can't not be disappointed based on what you saw because you even had a chance to get back in this game, right? It's playing as poorly as you did. There was a chance, but you were loose. And as a result, you get burnt. And look, the players were loose. The forwards were loose. The defense was loose. Connor Hellebuck was loose. Too many times this season now we've been able, and more often than not in the past, what we would have said was forwards were loose, the defense were loose, but Connor Hellebuck was solid. Connor Hellebuck stole you the game. And so that, for many years, was the thing that we would say, whether it was on our show on Saturdays or now in this new format on the postgame show. But this season you haven't been able to say that as often, and as a result, this is what's going to happen when he is not otherworldly and you're loose against the team. Yeah, look, it's not as if the Islanders aren't good relative to the East, but relative to the Jets. What's the difference? Is there a significant difference between the Islanders and the Jets?
Well, one team plays with. Let me put it to you this way: which team do I think still has more structure and a better approach and more consistency night in and night out, despite their record? It's the New York Islanders. If I had to choose one of the two teams for next year, just based on the entire organization and an evaluation of everything that's going on, and from management to coaching to structure to players to everything, I would choose the New York Islanders. I mean, I just would. I have this Jets team and the Jets organization, as I've outlined and as I've said on the show multiple times, is due for a reckoning. I believe that this Islanders season that has been absolutely atrocious is a anomaly. It's not the beginning of the end. It's not a true tale of where they're at as a team and as an organization. I think that the Jets right now are in much more upheaval than the New York Islanders. So if I had to choose between one or the other, I would choose the New York Islanders, no question about it, because at least you know what their approach is and what their style is and what their structure is and what their game is supposed to look like. The Islanders, I frankly got screwed with earlier. They haven't been able to overcome that. It was too much for them to overcome. With how hard they were hit before the NHL was the least bit sympathetic towards any team.
Yeah,
that's a bit of an aside to everything. But look, you watch the Islanders play, and you know what you're going to get. You watch the Jets play, and you know what you're going to get too. Unfortunately, all you're going to get is loose defensive play and an effort that oftentimes is lacking in its effectiveness, let's say. In any event, let's get into the goals. You could go ahead. You can follow up on that if you want.
No, I got nothing. I think that's well said. And the chat is hot right now. Although I'm not sure I agree with Kenny's water bottle. He said if you had to choose between Drew and Dave, he'd pick Ezzy. So I'm not sure.
Smart man, that Kenny's water bottle.
I'm not sure I'm going to agree with Kenny on that one. But let's move on to the goals in the game.
Okay, let's get into the game recap. It's brought to you by our friends at Betway, one of the largest sports books in Canada. Whether it's hockey, baseball, football, basketball, soccer, horse racing, tennis, or even esports, No other sports book knows what you want like Betway. So with a huge selection of betting options in sports, as well as strong promotions and fair odds, what are you waiting for? Head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. Big week upcoming for all those who like to, lay a little bit of odds every now and then. March Madness, as we all know, kicks off Thursday, so it's a very exciting, basketball action, college basketball. I'm a huge college basketball fan. I'm, trying to keep track of what's happening between Kentucky and Vanderbilt. As everyone knows, I'm a big Kentucky fan. In the SEC quarterfinals, that's taking place right now. So I'm trying to keep an eye on that throughout the course of the show. So lots going on in the world of sports. Betway is your destination if you want to lay a bet or two. The New York Islanders open the scoring. It comes on the power play at the 6:38 mark of the first period. Brock Nelson assists to Anthony Beauvillier and Noah Dobson. It's Nelson's 23rd of the season. Second game in a row, Dave. The Jets are beat by that seam pass on the power play, and the Islanders get that early lead, something the Jets have, as of late, actually been able to get the early lead.
Yeah, and it just kind of deflated them a little bit, right? You could just see there was a bit of sag from that situation because, look, the Islanders are coming off a huge win. The Jets are coming off a pretty decent win too. I mean, Eric Comrie was excellent. The Jets were there was some looseness to their game last night, but the goaltending was excellent, and the rebound control from Eric Comrie was very good, and as a result, they was able to keep his club ahead in the game. Again, Drew, you're right. This is one of those situations where the Jets just didn't have it to start that contest, and as a result, they find themselves down. And you're right. Of late, it hasn't been so good, but it has been a problem this season. And so, you're just sitting there and you're kind of scratching your head because as you said, you're supposed to be playing this game with a level of, look, you don't want to be grasping your stick too tightly and trying to overthink the game, right? These guys know how to play. They don't have to do that. But I mean, at the same time, there is an element of, you can see it, right? They're just a tight team because they know how significant or how minuscule, their margin for error is. And it just seemed like a lot of times guys were standing around and weren't really engaged. And so, it happened on the first goal, happened on, and we'll go through it, but it happened on a number of instances where you're watching this contest and you're thinking to yourself, like, why are they standing around? Why are these guys just like, the Islanders were moving, the Jets were standing around. And when you're standing around, it's not hard to beat you, right? If you're just not moving, if there's no movement to your game, then how difficult is it for guys at the NHL level to go around you? And so we saw it. And so, yeah, I mean, it's not a good way to start a contest when you're already behind the 8 ball.
Exactly right. You're already behind the 8 ball, and the Jets, they were flat from the start of this game, and I just don't quite understand how you can be flat entering. I thought they would have a sharper performance tonight. I thought the approach yesterday, starting Eric Comrie in New Jersey, as opposed to starting Hellebuck and then going with Comrie tonight, was actually a smart approach by Dave Lowry. It didn't translate tonight. For whatever reason, the Jets just did not have their skating legs from the get-go. At no point in time in tonight's game did I think the Jets really matched the intensity or matched the speed at which the Islanders played at. And the Islanders, I understand, are a very frustrating team to play against because they're so structured. I mean, I get that is not how the Jets play. That's not how the Jets succeed. The Jets want to play an open and a loose style, for better or worse, because largely that's for worse, don't get me wrong. But, the Jets, just at no point in time today did I think that they really elevated their game to match what the Islanders threw at them. That said, the Jets, after 20 minutes, were in a decent position because at the 16:58 mark of the first period, Kyle Connor gets his 36th of the year, assist to Nikolai Ehlers, assist to Neil Pionk, and to say that this is a bit of a blown coverage would be a large understatement. Anytime that Nikolai Ehlers and Kyle Connor go in on a 2-on-0 breakaway, something has gone wrong. I don't think I need to explain that to anybody watching this show. That is not how you draw up a good defensive strategy. Ehlers and Connor, Ehlers teed it up for Kyle Connor, and he ripped it past Semyon Varlamov, and for whatever reason, the Islanders had a blown coverage. And even though the Jets haven't played well, and they didn't play well in the first period, it's 1-1. Okay. Similar to the second period last night in New Jersey, where the Jets don't play especially well, but Kyle Connor gives the Jets the lead with that breakaway backhand goal. This one's not a backhand. This one's just a bullet off his stick after being teed up by Nikolai Ehlers, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, and Kyle Connor has just been phenomenal. He's been the best story of this. I mean, they said it on the broadcast. I heard that the only Jets 2.0 who's hit 40 is Patrick Laine. Well, Kyle Connor he's now eclipsed the pace. Yesterday, it was 49.4 goals, in an 82 game season. Now he's over 50. So, I mean, Kyle Connor is a legitimate candidate to hit 50 goals in a season. That's not an insignificant mark. I mean, he really is phenomenal what he's able to do. And look, Nikolai Ehlers, great pass from him. And he had a little bit of a frustrating game, I think. But, when those two with that kind of speed get that chance, I mean, it's almost impossible to stop. And so once you saw it, like you said, Drew, I mean, Ehlers has so many weapons there. He can shoot, he can make the pass, and he made the pass. And at that point, Kyle Connor's not making the mistake. And 36 goals in 59 games for Connor. I mean, that, like I said, it's simply remarkable what we're seeing. And that's the frustration I think Jets fans are probably having right now, right? You've got Kyle Connor having the best season of his NHL career. No question about it. You have Pierre-Luc Dubois, who's probably going to have this best output. I mean, he's going to eclipse his goal mark. I would suspect at least he's on pace for that. So you've got another guy who's having a career year. You're actually getting good production from a number of guys, but you just can't put it together. And so, and I don't want to, I know we're going to focus on the game, but like I said, like how many times have the Jets had an opportunity to do something, to build on 2 wins, right? You defeat Tampa, then you defeat New Jersey. You got the road trip started off well. I mean, just think about what position even like I said, even if it's an illusion, even if you're 3 points out, but they still got games in hand, how good do you feel having 2 wins on this road trip and going into St. Louis where you've had a good result against St. Louis, right? So you can feel somewhat confident in that game and it's going to be a big contest. So you think your team would be up for it. But like I said, so you get that 1-all goal and you're right. It's not a great game that I think they were being outshot, 11-6 at that point or something.
After 20 minutes, 11-6.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not as if you're having a phenomenal period, but you've buried your one opportunity. I mean, they said it when they switched from TSN to MSG, they actually said that I think that was Varlamov's first win in 2022. So
if that's true, and I mean, I believe you, I didn't hear that, but if that's true, the Jets certainly made it an easy victory for him because it's not like he was peppered with opportunities throughout the course of this game. The Jets they weren't in the game. And we saw that. I mean, you get out of the first tide and you're lucky to be out of the first tide because to your point, you didn't play well. And you start the second period in the manner in which they started it's just like they were still in the dressing room when the period began. Josh Bailey gives the Islanders the lead back, his 5th of the year. That comes at the 109 mark. And Anders Lee gives the Isles a 2-goal lead 40 seconds later. That's his 20th of the year. And these are just bad D zone coverages.
Terrible.
That's all these are. I mean, the goalie, I see people blaming Hellebuck and Hellebuck certainly, I don't think he was great tonight or anything. But
his rebound control wasn't phenomenal.
But how many on both of those goals? You have guys who
no. Look, you could say Drew, you can apportion blame appropriately, right? Connor Hellebuck's rebound control wasn't great, but where was the defense? I mean, one play Nate Schmidt is standing watching, another play Logan Stanley is spinning like a top, and it's like, what are you guys doing? Nobody is taking anybody in front, and so you're sitting there going it's these guys are NHL caliber guys. Bailey had no problems. Anders Lee, he's not gonna make a mistake on those kind of plays, and it's in the back of the net. I mean, it's just wild to watch this Jets team. Do they know how to do a box out? I mean, seriously, it's crazy to think how soft sometimes they play in front of their goaltenders. And so you're watching this and you're thinking to yourself, like, what exactly, if Hellebuyck is giving up a bad rebound, like maybe, okay, you're more cognizant of that. You're like, okay, his rebound control hasn't been great. He's kicking out some pretty significant rebounds. Well, if that's the case, why are you not tightening up? Why are you not boxing out more effectively? Are you incapable of doing it? Maybe, because that's the way it looked tonight.
Well, I mean, nowadays in the NHL, it used to be that you would never let a player behind you, between you and the goaltender, when you play defense. Nowadays, and it's been like that for at least the last probably decade or so, defensemen front the player that is next to them to try and block the shot. But when that happens, you're leaving yourself vulnerable to a guy to get the rebound before you do. But the Jets are so soft when it comes to tying up sticks and using any size that they have to try and prevent the Islanders player in this instance from getting the stick on the puck on the rebound first. I mean, they're just soft. It's all it is. It's you just have to be more aggressive in preventing the Islanders player getting that rebound. I mean, what's the point of Logan Stanley if he's not physical?
Yeah, I know. I have no idea.
What's the point of Brendan Dillon the only time Brendan Dillon is physical is along the boards, which is nice, which is good.
I think with him, again, I'm not trying to make excuses, but I do wonder if it's in his head a little bit, the cross-checking adjustment, because that was a big element of his style of game would have lended itself to laying the lumber in front of the net. And so, but at the same time, Drew, I'm not going to make an excuse, because it becomes incumbent on you to adjust to the rules. Now, the reffing in the NHL has been garbage, so who knows what the hell they're calling half the time. But at the end of the day, by the way, just as an aside, Moose and Senators going to overtime.
Okay, there you go.
That's what the people really give a shit about. Come on, nobody actually cares about the Jets anymore. People want to know about the Moose. We just turn this into a Moose show.
Not quite yet.
About the Jets,
not quite yet.
Let's go to the chat. I'm going to ask the chat. Do you want to talk about the Moose, or do you want us to talk about the Jets still?
We'll get to your Manuk Moose minute when the Moose game and the Moose Senators game ends, whether it's an overtime or a shootout. We'll bring you all the latest here on the Illegal Curve post game show. We say good evening to everybody. By the way, Kentucky won. I know you're very curious. Good evening to everybody. Smash the like button. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're new here. This is the Illegal Curve post game show. We do it after each and every Winnipeg Jets game. We do it again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. with the Illegal Curve hockey show. And we're talking about the Jets and the Islanders. Islanders 5, Jets 2. Talking about some of the woeful defensive coverage that the Jets had on display at multiple times in tonight's game. They're just so easy to play against. And it's not every team says the same thing. Don't be easy to play against in the high danger zones. Tie up sticks, bodies against bodies. And you see the Islanders do it so much better than the Winnipeg Jets. I don't know if you might be right that Brendan Dillon's got it in its head because of the crackdown on cross-checking, which happened before, or was allegedly going to happen throughout the course of the year, but you can flip a coin when it actually does happen. But you're Brendan Dillon. Pound somebody in front of the net. You're Logan Stanley. You're 8 feet tall. Pound somebody in front of the net. Make it hard for a guy like Josh Bailey to get there. Make it hard for a guy like Anders Lee to get there. Whatever it's going to be, maybe they're still going to be successful. That's fine. But you can't be this easy to play against, especially in front of your net, especially when, look, I didn't think Hellebuck's rebounds were atrocious. I didn't think that they were the worst rebounds I've ever seen. If I had to pick one or the other as to who is at the fault, the goalie makes the first save. The defense is supposed to clean up any rebounds, at least I think, look, the Isles scored 4 goals, never mind the empty netter, but 3 out of the 4 goals, nobody picked up the guy on the rebound. It's just crazy to me what the Jets are demonstrating in terms of their conscientiousness in front of their own goal. After 40 minutes, nothing else happened in the second period. The Jets, again, they had 9 shots in the period. I don't remember very many of those that were what I would describe as tremendous opportunities. So it's 3-1 for the Islanders after 40 minutes. And the Jets need to find what's been ailing them, what's been missing them the entirety of the game. They need to get some jump in their game. They need to get some speed in their game. And to their credit, they did. Blake Wheeler started the third period, getting the Jets on the board. His 8th of the year. It comes with assists from Paul Stastny and Dylan DeMello. Nothing fancy about the play. It's a shot from the point towards the net, and Wheeler goes hard to the net, and he redirects the rebound in. That's what you need to do. It has to be like that, and the Jets do it. And now it's a 3-2 game after just 40 minutes and 20 seconds into the third period. That's what you want to see happen for the Jets in that instance, Dave.
Well, and again, like I said, it's a game you don't think that the Jets are necessarily even going to be in, and yet somehow you've made it 3-2. And I know that they wanted to review it and see if it was going to be, a kicked in goal by Blake Wheeler. But I mean, that's exactly what you needed from him, right? Just like I said, it wasn't a good second period. You were heavily outshot. You're outscored by 2. So you're thinking to yourself, this is the period. Like of all the times in your season, this is the instance where Blake Wheeler comes out and, like you said, Drew, right away scores a goal. You couldn't ask for more. You couldn't really ask for anything more. So now suddenly it's 3-2, and your team should be feeling a little bit of excitement because, even though you're still down, it's like we've been talking about. The Islanders aren't, the Islanders from a few years ago right now. They haven't been playing that well. And so there's an opportunity there to get back in against a team that, even though they scored 6 last night, maybe they're not feeling necessarily as confident in their game, right? So, if you're the Jets, the Jets. Yeah, sorry, I got the Moose game on overtime. I got the Jets in my brain. We're trying to figure it out. The point is, it's just a missed opportunity, I think, from the idea of carrying the play, taking advantage of that. Because, if you went 10 minutes into the third period, then Blake Wheeler gets that goal, sure, you're playing with that desperation, but it may feel that time is running out on you a little bit. Here, you've got all the time in the world. You've got a whole period to whittle away and tie that game. So, the Jets should have been feeling really good because they really, like I said, after that second period, shouldn't have been even that close, and yet they were only down by a goal.
Oh, and they had
by 2, but then a goal early in the third.
Yeah, I mean, and they had opportunities. I mean, so the Jets score early in the third. Then Josh Morrissey takes the tripping penalty. I believe that was the one where he hauled down Matt Barzal because Barzal would have been in on a breakaway otherwise. And the Jets even had some opportunities on that shorthanded there. Brendan Dillon, criticized him for his defensive play. He had a good rush there. Andrew Kopp and Adam Lowry had a couple good opportunities on Varlamov there. And the Jets killed off the penalty. Again, that's a big penalty kill. But they're not able to build off that penalty kill. They're not able to build off the Wheeler goal. Josh Bailey, his 6th of the season, his 2nd of the game, comes at the 7:14 mark, assist to Adam Pelech and JG Pajot, and it's a carbon copy of some of the other goals where Hellebuck makes the first save, and the rebound is just sitting there, and nobody ties up Josh Bailey. And he's able to deposit the puck past Hellebuck, who's, I don't know that he's necessarily out of position, but he's, trying to get back after making the initial save. The defense has to tie players up.
Yeah.
They have to do that. I don't know what you're doing. If you're not clearing the puck and you're not tying up the guys, you're not being effective in your role as a defenseman there. And it's 4-2 for the Isles. And at no point after that did you think the Jets were coming back. No. I didn't. I mean, they had a little bit of life. Look, they were down 3-2, 20 seconds into the third period, and hadn't played a good game at all. Hadn't played any sort of sustained, shifts in the Isles zone. Hadn't had sustained pressure at any point. And you're only down by a goal. And then Bailey makes it 4-2, and the Jets certainly didn't have anything that was going to get them back into the game, Dave. And Clutterbuck quickly ended it. Dave Lowry pulls Connor Hellebuck. I don't have a problem with this. He pulls Hellebuck with just with at the 15-16 mark with Hellebuck on the bench. Clutterbuck into the empty net, assist to Casey Cizikas, and it's 5-2 for the Isles, which ended up being the final score, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's how many goals, if you think about it, they almost were like carbon copies, right?
Yeah.
For the against the Jets. So I mean, it's just tough because you don't have a consistency to your game. You don't play it the way you needed to. You weren't tight defensively, and Connor Hellebuck couldn't steal it for you. Well, that's generally a recipe for not a lot of success, right? And that fourth goal goes in, and you're right, Drew. I mean, at that point, it's game over. I mean, like you didn't have there wasn't any like feeling like, oh, the Jets can get back into this again. A few years ago, I remember like Ez and I would be at Canada Life or whatever they were calling it at the time, and like I guess Bell MTS, and you'd sit there and you'd think, oh, the Jets are down, but they can do this. They can get back into a game. You just don't have that same feeling. And so when it was 4-2, in my mind, I mean, it was game over at that point. I mean, obviously there's still a lot of time left in the game, but it didn't feel like it was going to happen for this Jets club. By the way, games Moose and Senators going to a shootout.
Well, there you go. Dave M keeping us up to speed as to what's happening there. The Jets, unfortunately, not able to capitalize on their opportunities. No power play opportunities for the Jets in tonight's game. And I know that more often than not, a team deserves at least one penalty or one power play opportunity in the course of a game. But there weren't really, Josh Bailey slashes Brendan Dillon, and they both go for 2 minutes. And I mean, I
thought Dillon just had a good hit on Bailey. Like I can't stand that even up crap. Like it's just like don't be afraid to call a penalty.
Well, exactly.
It's just stupid.
And especially where Bailey got Dillon. I mean, he speared him, slashed him in a very sensitive, very sensitive area.
I know, but it's so funny. Like, we were talking about, this isn't pertinent to this game, but they always talk about players adjusting. Oh, if you have a new rule, players adjust. Here's a crazy notion: call the rules that are actually in the books the right way, and even if it means 25 penalties in a game. Eventually, the players are going to start to figure it out that they have to stop doing it, right? If it's costing them. So I just think like it's stupid because there's, we talk about a lack of consistency from the Jets. There's a lack of consistency from these refs. And the problem is there's no accountability, right?
Well, sure. Because they never speak and they're all anonymous and everything else. So you're right. There's no accountability. But my point was, the Jets didn't generate anything for the most part where they deserved the power play. That's a pretty good sign about how impotent the Jets were in terms of today's game, in terms of offensively, in terms of their not effort, but in terms of their just ability to generate anything into tonight's game. If you can't generate a penalty call, that's usually a pretty evident sign about the kind of quality of game you're playing, and the quality of the Jets game was certainly lacking in tonight, and it's resembled, or it's evident in the final score, that being 5-2 for the New York Islanders.
Sorry, I gotta interrupt. I'm capable of doing more than one thing at a time, chewing gum and walking or whatever it is. Yeah. But probably one of the funniest shootout shots you'll ever see was just scored on Mikkel Burden. Jeff Malott just had to score to keep this thing alive. But the Senators stick, I don't know, I didn't see who was shooting, but it snapped as he was shooting, and yet he still beat Mikkel Burden. So it gave Belleville a 2-0 advantage, and now they're going to go for the win here if they can score this one. But if they don't, then the Moose will have a chance to tie it in the shootout. Oh, they scored. It's over. Belleville wins 4-3 in the shootout.
There you go. Live coverage of the Moose and the Senators. Belleville
beat Joe Senators from Winnipeg. He's still on the Malott goal. Sorry, Joe. Just ruined it for you.
Belleville defeating the Manitoba Moose in a shootout tonight. When we come back, we'll talk more about the Jets and the Islanders. We'll preview tomorrow morning's Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We'll have a Tough Duck Hardest Hitting comment. Dave will give us a Moose Minute about everything that went down at tonight's Moose Senators game. Much more to come. Stay with us. It's the Illegal Curve post-game show. This segment, of course, brought to you by our friends at Betway. Don't go anywhere. Much more to come. You're listening, you're watching, you're chatting with the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Boys, finding parking on game day shouldn't take longer than the Minute Minute.
It shouldn't take longer than 1 minute?
Yeah, less than a minute? I spend at least 20 driving around to find street parking, or if I'm in a rush to the game, I'll shovel out 20 at a parkade.
You're both doing it wrong. There's this app called Grid Park. It lets you find and pre-book your parking spot on game days, and you can reserve your spot up to 1 month in advance. And guess how much you'll pay?
Tell me, Dave. You know I love a deal.
Ezzy, $5.
Come on, $5?
Yeah, and it's just 2 blocks from the arena.
The Grid Park app?
Yep, spelled GRYD Park. And you know what else?
There's more?
Our listeners get their first park free with the code FIRSTPARK.
Wow, so they just download the Grid Park app and pre-book their next game day spot for free?
Yeah, you got it, Ez. Promo code FIRSTPARK. Only on the Grid Park app.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com. For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. Ten minutes before the top of the hour, welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk with you. The question is, what's Dave watching now? Because the Moose game is over, but I'm sure he's watching. He's doing some work for the website. The man is just too busy for words, ladies and gentlemen. He never stops doing things for you, our loyal audience. Is he updating Instagram? Quite possibly. Is he updating the Twitter feed? Quite possibly. Is he updating the Facebook feed? Quite possibly. Is he updating the website? Quite possibly. The man knows no limits for what he's willing to do to make sure you, our loyal audience members, are fully up to speed with everything to do with the Winnipeg Jets or the Manitoba Moose. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Dave Manouk.
Thanks, Drew. I appreciate that. That's quite an intro. Although Jeff is wrong. I'm not playing Wordle. I've never once played Wordle. I will never play Wordle.
I play Wordle. I mean,
I know you do. We know we've talked about it, but I will not go to the Wordle thing. No, what I was doing was tweeting out the shootout goal that Belleville scored because, like, it's just a ridiculous goal, and it ends up being the shootout winner, which is even kind of adds insult to injury. So, kind of a funny one. I just tweeted that on my Twitter, IC Dave. So if anybody wants to check that out, it's slowly uploading. I'm trying not to use up too much of our Wi-Fi here, Drew. We got to keep that for the show. So, anyways, what would you care to talk about now? I mean, I don't want to let you go back to hosting.
Well, I appreciate that. I was going to see if you were ready to do your Manuk Moose Minute, but if you're not, then
I'm always ready.
You're always ready. Okay,
always
here
ready.
we go.
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Manuk Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Is it wrong that I get a kick out of that every single time?
Nah, as long as it's only a kick. Then if you got anything else, I was going to have to leave for the rest of the night.
I don't know what that means, but okay. The point is, the Moose came into
you can probably figure it out if you think hard.
I'm joking.
Pardon the pun.
So, yes. Okay, can we move on?
Yeah, you can move on.
The Moose came into tonight's action against Belleville. This is the end of a 9-game homestand. So they had 2 games tonight and tomorrow. I'm reliably informed by Winnipeg Joe that the puck drop is at 6 p.m. I don't know why I thought it was at 7 p.m. Maybe because daylight savings time is tomorrow night. So I got my times confused, but I could have sworn it was 7. Reality is this is game 8 of 9 that they're playing at home. They've won 2 straight. So looking for to keep their good times alive in Canada Life because where they've been unbelievable. Started off kind of a slow start to the game, but Nick Hutchinson, no relation to Michael Hutchinson as far as I'm aware, he scored his first AHL goal, kind of right guy in the right spot, I guess, just right by the net, and he put it home to give the Moose a 1-0 lead, but the Senators would come back, tie it about 3 minutes later, and then Cole Meyer on a beautiful, very actually similar to the Ehlers Kyle Connor goal. Cole Meyer finishes off, and Nicholas Jones. Those two work really well together, and Nicholas Jones fed the puck over to Cole Meyer, who put it to the back of the net to give the Moose a 2-1 lead after 20 minutes of play. Things were looking even better to start the second period. Nelson Noje, who, he's just one of those, obviously he's a Jets draft pick, but because of all the young Jets prospects who are playing defense for the Manitoba Moose this season, he's been a guy who's had to, be a healthy scratch more often than not. And so when he gets into the lineup, the guys are very happy for him, for any success he has. And he scores beautiful no-look pass by Jeff Malott about 8 minutes into the second period. So the Moose were looking good. They had a 3-1 lead. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, Mikal Burton had given up had given up the 1 goal, and they hadn't had a lot of shots, but the Moose really were kind of dominating in the shot department. Problem was they took a few penalties in that middle frame and ended up burning them. So they gave up a goal, the 3-2 goal, with just about the midway point of the second period, and then just with a few minutes left, the game tying goal again on the power play. So even though they outshot Belleville, I think the final shot count was 48-28. They found themselves tied 3-3 after 40 minutes, and they had a good third period. They just couldn't solve the Belleville netminder, so outshot them 16-6 and couldn't get anything done. Mikal Burton was good in the overtime, where the Moose got outshot 6-1. So Belleville came on a little bit stronger in the extra frame.
I just saw the shootout goal. That is an absolutely ridiculous goal.
I know. It's the craziest shootout goal I've ever seen. Like, I don't even know what to say about that goal. But anywho, so look, the Moose, come away with a point, which is a good thing, and they've been rolling at home. I was a little surprised not to see Simon Lundmark, the 2019 second rounder, get into the game because I thought with Ville Heinola recalled up to the Winnipeg Jets that maybe that he'd get, because more often than not, if they've been needing players, he's been the guy who's kind of been thrown in. So I don't know if maybe they had a lot of practice this week. I don't know if he was maybe banged up. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Moose are back at it. They'll finish off the 9-game homestand tomorrow in a rematch with Belleville. So we'll see what happens with, you're going to show the goal? I like it.
I'm showing it.
Yeah.
Like, the stick went so far wide. I mean, look at this. I've never seen anything like this in my life. Look how far the stick goes.
It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Like, it seems like it shouldn't count. But, I mean, of course it does count. But you can understand where, like, look at that.
Like if you're Mikkel Burden, you're thinking to yourself, what just happened? Like that is ridiculous. And it honestly is. Like I've never. It's funny. It's one of those things. Like I could just watch it on loop.
I don't know who it is for Belleville. Whoever it is skating back, he's skating like he's won, like he's done something incredible, as if his stick didn't just break in the goal. He's like avoiding a shard of wood that's flying at him.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was. I honestly don't think I've ever seen anything like it. I think it was Igor Sokolov who scored that goal. Could be wrong. I'm pretty sure that's who it was, but. You know, it comes down to one of like, look, and it's just unfortunate. The shootout, as Ezzy would often say, I like that we keep just playing it in repeat over and over and over again. But
we really need to drill it into people's heads just how ridiculous this one is.
Yeah. But I mean, it's funny because that's why I was trying to talk during the show, and I'm watching the shootout, and I'm thinking to myself, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. So this is great, Drew, that you did this because now people can actually know what we're talking about, what I was laughing about. And yeah, I mean, you feel bad for Mikkel Burden because, you know, I mean, it's one thing if you get beat with a good shot. It's another thing you get beat like that. So, all right, let's.
I'm not sure what he's supposed to do. That's that's terrific.
Yeah. So it's a tough result, but I mean that's what happens with the extra, you know, the shootout goals. I mean, shootout's kind of a dog and pony show. It's a trick, or you know, whatever it is. So. It's entertaining because of things like that, or when it goes like 12 rounds, like we saw recently here in Winnipeg for between the Moose and who was that? Was it the Wolves? I don't remember, but it was a long shootout. But anyway, so the Moose will have a chance to earn some revenge and continue their quest for. And you know what? It's one thing we've been talking about with this Moose Club, and you know, I know we don't talk about the playoffs for the Jets right now because the odds are so slim, but I mean, this Moose team is. There's no question they're going to be a playoff team. I mean, they're the second best team in the Central Division behind Chicago. But this, you can hear it. Like the media availability today, Dylan Sandberg was talking about it, how excited this team is. They're still focused on the regular season, but that's what these guys, that's the reward, right? That was what they didn't have last year. And that's what made what they did last year so impressive. The fact that team gelled, and this team is largely intact from last year, which is why, and they've nicely augmented it with some additional players, but that's one of those things that this club was able to do last year. I mean, they didn't have there was no carrot. There wasn't a playoffs for that Moose Club last year. So
there's no Calder Cup that they're going to try and win.
Right. That's right. So they didn't have that opportunity, and yet they still played because they were such a good group of guys in the sense that they gelled, they liked each other, and that's continued into this year. Like I said, I've never seen a team like these guys. And so especially as they get more talent, you know, they've got Luke Johnson, who's injured. He's had a tough go. He's had 2 big injuries this year. He's at a real good offensive talent at the AHL level. And like I've said, Cole Perfetti, Christian Reichel, and I think the Jets organization will make a big mistake. We'll talk about it more in 10 days at the trade deadline. But I think the Jets organization will make a big mistake if Christian Vesalainen isn't made available to the Moose for a Calder Cup run and we'll see. On the 21st, they have to put him, at least paper transaction him down to the Moose. And so he could use that. I think it'll go a long way for him and for this club. Look, I'm not saying they're going to win the Calder, but I think they're in the running. And I think it's one of those things that you have to give these guys as good a shot to gain experience. They don't need an extended summer. They can have a month or 2 of playing hockey, and then they can worry about, you know, a month or 2 of summer.
Let's wrap up tonight's post-game show with our Tough Duck hardest-hitting comment. And I'm going to award it to Justin Newsham with his comment on the screen there. I think it's time to move Stasny to the third line and put Nick Ehlers up to the first. That first line has kind of been meh lately. A good use of the word meh. I always appreciate a good Simpsons reference, and I would tend to agree with Justin. We saw a bit of a line juggle, a brief one, where we saw Svechnikov move down to the third line and Ehlers to move with Connor and Dubois, and I was sort of surprised that was that way. I would have gone with Ehlers up with Scheifele and Wheeler and move Stasny down to the third line. So I think that Justin is on to something, and I wonder if on Sunday's game against the Blues, we won't see some different line combinations because it's time to get something going with that top line. Wheeler obviously scored today, but for, I'd say, a second consecutive game, Mark Scheifele was relatively not noticeable. He had one good opportunity that Varlamov made a nice save on, but for the most part, he certainly was not a especially dominant force by any stretch. So I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see some line juggling between now and Sunday's game. So, Justin, congratulations. Send me an email with your mailing address, drew@illegalcurve.com, and we will send you out a toque from our friends at Tough Duck. If you don't want to email me, you can DM me on Twitter at ICDrew, and we'll hook you up with that. Big thanks to our friends at Tough Duck for their support and sponsorship of the Illegal Curve hardest hitting comment on the post game shows. Dave and I and Ezzy will be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. That is a mere 11 hours from now for the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We'll be joined by our buddy Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. You know him as Rennie, of course. And we'll be joined by Jeremy Rutherford of The Athletic, who covers the St. Louis Blues, to preview the game on Sunday. Want to say a big thank you, of course, to the sponsors of this show, sponsors of the Legal Curve Hockey Show, sponsors of the website for their long-term support: Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Betway, Bernstein's Deli, Tough Duck, Boston Pizza, Seagram's, Rolly's Transfer, and Grid Park. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. Thanks to everybody for joining us on tonight's post-game show. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, tell your friends, tell your family members. The best place to be after each and every Winnipeg Jets game, and again on Saturday mornings, is the Illegal Curve YouTube channel for the best in Jets discussions. Thanks so much for joining us. For Dave Minuk, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Until tomorrow at 9 a.m., we wish you good night and good luck.